So if you crave something really bad, how far would you go to get it? Well, these two guys have answered our question. Harold and Kumar. I think there's multiple names for this film. This one says Go to Castle, but I think when I watched it on another thingy, it said Get the Munchies, so it could be considered as either. So let's see, what the review saying is 4.5 out of Amazon UK, 7.1 out of 10 on IMDb, and 3 out of 5 on Empire. So it's a very decent film. I think it is quite a funny film. It's not quite for everybody. If you're not like into that kind of comedy or into that kind of stuff, basically starts off with a guy called Harold. He's doing some work, and then two guys come in who are already talking, and you get him to do all the extra work for him because he's the Chinese man, the numbers guy, really. And then he phones his friend Kumar, who's having an interview to become like a doctor or something. He phones him and says, "I'm not going to be able to make the. I've got so much work to do. I'm not going to be able to smoke weed with you." He's like, "Nah, frick that. You can be smoking weed with me. You got to come home. You got to smoke all this weed." So he eventually comes back. He decides to do it. Gets in the elevator with a girl that he never talked to. He has imaginations of what he'd say in his head, but just never says anything. So that's something that happens. And eventually, they're high as a kite, and they're watching TV, and they want some food because that's what happens when you get high. And what do they decide? They see an advert for White Castle, and they want to go to White Castle for the food. So they try to find out where the White Castle is and everything like that, but they just have no idea at all. So that's what they end up going for. Alright, continuing on. Sorry about that. I'm just trying to do two things at once right now. So they eventually decide to go there. So they go to the drive-thru where they think the place might be. They keep running into these guys continuously throughout the film, but I'll just give you the brief discussion on what they are like now. They're just a bunch of racists, extreme, hard guys, essentially. But that's the main gist of those guys. We'll come back to them in a bit. So they go, try to find the White Castle. They go and they see Burger Shack. And they're like, "Yo, dude, there used to be a White Castle here." He's like, "Nah, that moved." And then he gave him directions. He's like, if you want White Castle, but okay, guys, my guy shot him. This guy just goes mental and wants to burn the Burger Shack down. But that doesn't end up happening, and they try to drive to White Castle. They keep getting lost and taking a lot of detours within the film. I think eventually their tire breaks down on like a highway, and Harold just completely swerves the car like just out of a wrong intersection. The car breaks down. They meet a guy called Freak Show, and he's basically the guy was completely ugly, but was a super attractive wife. He takes him back to his place, talks to him about his wife. His wife goes in, speaks to them, and stuff happens. Won't spoil too much. Also, don't want this film review to go on too long with all my detail. They eventually escape after Freak Show fixes his wheel. They get back on the intersection. After a while, they keep running into these guys. Then they have to get. They want to pick up a hitchhiker. Hitchhiker goes like that, tries to get him, and then they pick up the hitchhiker. Turns out the hitchhiker is Neil Patrick Harris. So they eventually get Neil Patrick Harris into their car. They drive, but eventually Neil Patrick Harris steals their car as well when they want to try and get gas or Oxford directions to get to the White Castle from a corner shop and everything like that. But before that, there is a scene where a raccoon jumps into their car. Harold gets bitten. They get to the hospital, and then eventually Kumar's dad and brother sees them, and he tries to explain what happened, and they just want to be cut off from his allowance because he just didn't want to be too much in the doctor stuff. But he is incredibly smart though. And then eventually he steals their passes after giving them a hug, but then they end up having to perform surgery. He does it. Then that's how they get other directions to White Castle after that. When they're after Neil Patrick Harris steals their car, they get the directions from the clerk at the shop, and then they have to eventually try and find another way to get to get to the White Castle or get another car. And then you cross an intersection. Harold presses the button that you have to normally wait for before the light turns green, and then you can cross. Then Kumar just crosses. There's no car for miles. He's about to take a step. Police officer right there on his ass, talking about jaywalking. Gives him such a big fine. Kumar goes off on him. Harold eventually gets arrested because he punched him because of Kumar's just annoying him so much. He wanted to punch Kumar, but he never did. He missed, and the police officer, they get into the police station, and then I think Kumar makes a fake phone call for all the police to go into one suspect, and he tries to break Harold out of the prison. He gets halfway through, he finds the weed, and then eventually the police come back with a random black guy and just sits him down. And then they say, the other black guy's trying to escape. I can't remember what his name was, sorry. He said, I'm sitting down reading a book, police brutality, all that stuff, you know, still stuff that happens nowadays. Then she gets out, they get to escape, they enter into a forest, and then they find a cheetah that was on the loose. And then they smoke weed with the cheetah, and then they're riding the cheetah. I'm not making any of this up, by the way. They ride a cheetah high as a kite. Harold smacks his head, he eventually gets back up from getting hit, and they try to fight. They eventually get their way to Hot Dog Heaven, which is a place that their friends went, and then Harold's like, we gotta get to White Castle, because that's what they've been craving all day. That's what they want. They want White Castle, and they want to get to White Castle. Then the guys who keep annoying them, the racists, appear constantly, and eventually Harold decides, let's steal their car. They eventually steal their car. Police try to get to them. They're on like a cliff edge, and they steal their hang glider because they can see the White Castle. Get the hang glider off, and they get close enough to the White Castle where they can get in there. They finally make it inside the White Castle. They make their orders, and then Harold has no money because the police officer stole his money from earlier. But luckily enough, Neil Patrick Harris was there because they were talking about White Castle. He offered to pay and give them extra money to clean up their car, which is nice of Neil Patrick Harris. Then what happens after that is the old house bosses come in. He tells it how it is because he was sick of being mistreated, and then they both left. Kumar eventually goes to his interview after that. That's not in this one. That says something else that was going on separately. They go do that, eventually get home, and everything works out. The guys who annoy them, the racists, get arrested because Kumar left the weed in their car, probably accidentally, and then they track the guys for the number plate. The black guy gets his revenge from police, the brutality and racism, and everything works out for Harold and Kumar in the end. They've got their White Castle, and they've got what they've always wanted in the end. So that is Harold and Kumar get the munchies or go to White Castle, whatever the definition is, or whatever you prefer. Honestly, it is a good movie. I don't know how many times I'd watch it constantly. It's not the best. I liked it. I enjoyed the film as it was. They gave it. It's not got bad scores, so I'll probably give it a. It can have a out of 10. It can have a 7 out of 10. It got 7.1 out of 10 on IMDb. I think I'll just give it a 7, just a solid 7 for this film. Now, if you don't mind, I have the munchies. What for? Maybe one day you know. But before then, hopefully you subscribe, because maybe eventually I'll be able to get a film review with cinemas coming back on soon. But until then, I'm done. So I'll see you for another video another time. Alright then, bye.